welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph. Today, we got a real treat for you. His name is Phillip Brown, and he is the Wastewater Stormwater Superintendent at the City of Jacksonville Beach in beautiful Florida. Phillip, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, how you doing, man? And welcome to the podcast on this evening. From Florida, like I was mentioning earlier, in Jacksonville, we had some really cold weather last week.
What's cold?
Well, cold was 29, 30.
Ooh, okay.
Unusual cold. Unusual cold for us, freezing. Had a little frost and a little sleet in Jacksonville. However, we're back to Jacksonville. We're back to Florida weather.
Yeah.
Today is 72 degrees.
72.
Yes, sir. It's beautiful outside. So we had our week of winter back in the springtime for us. So I love
Florida. Yeah. From 29 to 72. That is a swing.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about the lay of the land real quick. So I know City of Jacksonville, you see it on the map, you hear about it. But Jacksonville Beach, I guess, what's the difference and what's the proximity to it?
Proximity is basically a bridge.
Okay.
Okay. A canal, a ditch. Not well, I never said ditch because you call it the ditch down here, beach. Like we're gonna go over to the other side of the ditch. But it's just the intercoastal waterway. We cross over it. We're in Jacksonville. You cross back over it. You're in Jax Beach.
Interesting. Population in Jacksonville Beach?
Roughly around 25,000.
Okay, so pretty sizable. I mean, something is big, something is small, but 25,000 that's big enough. So let's talk about a little bit about Phillip. What is a average Tuesday like for Phillip? From the time you get to the office to the time you leave, what are you doing?
Average Tuesday for Phillip, man. Right now in this particular time, we get ready for our capital improvement projects. So we start in January and we start working on those projects, looking at budgets, looking at where we are located at with the budget that's already out, how much we have spent, and to start deciding whether we're going to be able to meet our goals as far as having projects designed, bid, and out for bid. So right now in this particular time, it's a lot of that going on. Okay. However, on other days, I try to keep up with a lot of things that's going on up in Tallahassee as far as rulemaking. Rulemaking plays a big part of my job, staying up to date on rulemaking. One of the biggest things that we are looking at that I've been tasked to assign to do is PFAS, and to follow PFAS to see where it was going, which way it's going. And it's a lot of talk. It's been some talk on the news about it, and it's getting around. And that's one of the biggest things that we're dealing with now is PFAS, along with copper and lead down here. So that's pretty much nationwide, copper and lead. So those days there of looking and finding and making sure that we're up to date on our rules and regulations, making sure that we are on task with our construction that we have going on without the city and the water and the wastewater plants.
Gotcha. You spend most of your time in the office, you out in the pickup truck. What's kind of the breakdown?
I spend a lot of time in the office. I do have a truck that I use. I like being out and about, but I try to balance it out.
Yeah,
I try to balance it out. It's sometimes it can be hard because a lot of the stuff that I do is computer based.
Yeah.
So I try to be out. I try to make sure I get out and stretch and get out and see what's going on. Because when you got contractors working on site, you have to kind of make sure that you got eyes on them and answer the questions. No, that's not right. That shouldn't be this way, and those type things. So I try to balance it out daily.
Sure. I'm sure when it's 29 degrees, it's easier to stay inside, but it's 72 now. So
that part there, that was the easy part there. Staying inside during that time. But the funny thing about that time last week seemed like that's when everybody wanted to come out and look at something or look at a hole or something like that. And I'm like, hey guys, we seen this, so we could take this in the office. I think the conversation might go a lot better in the office.
Sure. The concept of rulemaking, you touched on that, Tallahassee. Is that like, how do you know what rules come out? Are you, do you go to the courtroom steps and you're reading through tons of documents trying to figure out what it is? Is it emails? Is it like word of mouth? Like, how do you know, what rules are coming down from, statewide to make sure you're operating correctly?
Well, usually through some emails,
Mm.
through some word of mouth, a little bit of all that is included in it. One of the things is, though, I try to stay abreast what we have with the American Water or Waterworks Association and Florida Water Associations that we have. And usually they would send out correspondence saying, hey, this rule is about to come out.
Okay.
Sometimes DEP will send out emails saying we're going to be discussing this rules and the changes of this rule. However, it's, back when I first started, because I've been in the field 31 years. So when we 31 years ago, we could say, well, I didn't know.
Yeah.
That was our, well, this don't change. Well, nobody told us. But now with the computer age and everybody doing online like this here, and there's no excuse not to know.
Yeah.
And you could Google those things and find out those things that you need to know. So that's one of the biggest things right there. So when I know that the legislation session usually starts around in Tallahassee around close to February.
Okay.
So during February, March timeframe, unless they call a special session, I know that the rules that we talked about previously or whatever we was talking about previously, now we're going to take back up because the holiday season's off. They're going back to work. So I kind of know those patterns of when they're going to be meeting and when they're not going to be meeting.
Sure. When I think of football, like in the NFL, there might be one or two rule changes every year. You might get like, I don't know, the tuck rule or the drop tackle rule or, different things with pass interference or the kickoff, like some rules change, maybe once or twice a year. But what's it like? Like, is it every year you got to worry about 10 different things coming down the pipeline, or, what's kind of the amount of rules that change year to year?
Not necessarily 10 rules every year, but sometimes they touch them. Sometimes lobbyists come up in Tallahassee and be lobbying for certain things.
Yeah.
And talking and trying to get rules passed. They may feel that the Blue-Green Algae Group, they're a huge organization within the Florida area.
Okay.
And probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we had this blue algae popping up and killing fish in the rivers. So that led from the blue algae people saying, hey, we need to do something. That kind of led to what Governor Ron DeSantis passed down Senate Bill 64.
Okay.
And in early on in 2000s, it was talk about it. Okay. Back then, I was just a young operator working at the plants, and I went to what they have every year is the Florida DEP Summer School down in South Florida. So every year, this is where they come together, and we started talking about what's going on in Tallahassee. You have lawyers, operators, supervisors, all us there, and we're meeting. And back then, say about 2016, 2014, they started talking about this Senate bill. And I came back as a young operator and I told my director, I said, hey, they're talking about making us all the wastewater plants get out the river and not to pump to the river. And he was like, no, that never happened. Well, fast forward 2025, that's a law. So now we're wastewater plants because they were saying that our nutrients were so high that it was causing the blue-green algae in the water.
Wow.
So now they're moving, they're saying by 2030, you have to have a plan, begin to execute a plan by that time to remove all wastewater or effluent from the river.
Wow.
So all the plants that have a surface water discharge permit is now looking at, hey, we got to get out the river. What can we do to get out the river?
And how much does it cost to get out of the river?
It depends upon what you're doing.
Okay.
Deep well injection is costly. It's very costly.
Explain deep well injection. You're digging or putting it in. Go ahead.
That is where we're taking the water from the plant and we're injecting the water back down into the aquifer for it to regenerate the aquifer so that we can have water come back up. Now, when you look at places like you said, I'm thinking from Arizona, all these different places, California, there's a shortage of water. There is, we haven't heard nobody say, "Oh, we got some new water coming. We found this." I wish it was that easy. Hey, we found this new water. It's great.
We're all fighting over the Colorado River. Yeah,
exactly. And these are the things that's happening. Our sister company, I call her a sister company, but she's not, JEA, which is on the other side of the river in Duval County.
Okay.
They're beginning a One Water initiative. So we're looking. We had a meeting last week, and they talked about the initiative of putting the water down into the aquifer, deep well injection, and they're talking about roughly about 2,600 feet down. Into the aquifer, where they have different levels, where the stuff that they really can use are the brackish water versus the regular water. Now that's all going to come through a thing of some of where reverse osmosis also.
Okay.
So what we're looking at in Florida, in my opinion, is that most water, wastewater people are going to have to be either dual certified or water certified, because right now, like again, there is no new water. We have to protect our environment. We have to protect our resources. So if we don't protect our resources and we just let it go, we're going to find ourselves in a very hard and difficult place.
Yeah. We when we think of Florida, we think of, like you said before, the beaches, the water. Like, again, if you don't have your beaches in Florida, I'm not sure how the economy goes.
Exactly.
So regarding, legislation, DeSantis, even, with the new administration in the White House, what are some of the things that can, keep that beaches and the water to the forefront of Florida?
I think the keeping it to the forefront of Florida is because of the income, the revenue that it brings in. I think that stays the forefront. Imagine going to the beach and you pull up on the beach in Florida, and then you got all this brackish water, or you got, all this stuff in the water. So just along with the people that comes to the beach, that come to Florida to go to the beaches, that alone is going to keep that in the forefront. That alone, it's not going to be a difficult push, a task. In fact, this has been going on since, I want to say 2018, 2019, but it's just really getting permanent. It's got some teeth to it now. And so no matter, I feel, no matter what happens in Washington, we're not going to lose this. We're not going to lose this initiative that we got, this Senate bill that we have. We're not going to lose it. It's going to be there.
Okay. Phillip, you've been at this for 31 years, man. 31 years. For those who are listening, they might want to know Phillip's, career path to maybe mimic it to end up where you're at today. What was your career path? Let's start from high school. What'd you do from graduating, to where you're at today?
Well, I graduated from Ed White High School in Jacksonville.
Okay.
And I went in the military. I went in the Navy. And that was, somewhat of a joke, because nobody would believe that I went into the Navy, because I never was in ROTC. I didn't go to ROTC. I didn't do none of that.
Interesting.
And along with that, I joined the Navy, and I took 12 of my good friends with me to the Navy.
12. Okay.
12 of them. By the time we got back home from boot camp, they wasn't my friends anymore.
How'd you convince them to sign up, man? That's a lot of friends to bring, man. It's a lot of influence you got.
Well, you know what? I said, man, I want to go see something different.
Yeah.
I said, we don't been here all our lives. We grew up together. Let's go see something different. But I think all of us, if we had figured out boot camp was going to be like that, we might have changed. So from that point there, because mom said, well, you can either go to school or you could do whatever, keep working. Because I was working as a bag boy and stock crew at a grocery store. And I was like, yeah. So I joined the military, and I got in as machinist mate, boiler technician. and started learning about water and making water on ships. And it was like, okay, this is something different. But the career path really, that really set me up for where I am now. Because when I got in the military, it wasn't exactly like I thought it was going to be. That was that part there. But once I did that and learned about that and been all over the world, uh, great opportunity. That's one of my things that I love doing is traveling sometimes, or most of the time. I ain't going to say sometimes. And so once I got out the military, I decided that I was going to move to, uh, tried New York. I tried Syracuse, New York.
Okay.
Too cold. Tried Atlanta. Too wild. So
Okay.
I ended up back home. And what I was doing, I was a delivery guy for Airborne Express. And I was in my area. I went into City Hall one day and I seen a job up there and I applied for the job, got the job. And I just wasn't sure. I thought I was on the water side, but then when I got to where I was on the wastewater side. And I was like, who? So from that point there, I came in as a mechanic. I started working up each way. I started from the very bottom, the very lowest position that there was here. And here I am now sitting 31 years later in charge of all the water, wastewater, stormwater divisions in
Wow.
the city of Jacksonville Beach. Wasn't always easy, wasn't always pleasant, but you know what? I enjoyed the ride and
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
Love it. Love it.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of travel, I'm a fan of travel myself, and I always like to ask the question when I hear of other people who like traveling, if you could do what you're doing right now in another country, and not necessarily like in a humanitarian aspect, but just somewhere where you'd want to live at and want to be able to work in water, wastewater, stormwater, where would you be at?
Ooh. There's so many places that
Well, give me a
hard to name
continent.
them.
You know?
I mean, probably Africa.
Okay. Whew.
Probably Africa.
That's a big undertaking. You probably lose more hair, but
Yeah. Actually, I got a friend that's trying to start now in Africa, in Zambia. In fact,
Zambia.
he's going over to start, but I think that would be the best place for me to start to help the people that don't have the right water or the water treatment that they would need. That
Yeah.
would be, I think that would be my greatest passion or desire, be able to give people water,
Yeah.
fresh water,
Yeah.
that they don't have to worry about being contaminated, water that they don't have to worry about the bulls or the oxygens and all of them drink.
Yeah.
Just a fresh water. I think that would be my place to go and try to help somebody.
Okay. So in 15 years, if I'm in Zambia, I can probably look you up and find you, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, we're going. We're planning a trip for July.
Okay.
Of
This
this
is happening.
year.
Okay.
Yeah, this is actually the place, man. So I mean, we're gonna see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of undertaking, but with the right people and the right training,
Yeah.
it could be done.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
could be done.
Okay. Let's say a youngster asks you, they're trying to seek some mentorship from you, some advice. They ask you, what's the main skill set they should pick up to be successful at what you do today? What would that skill set be?
That main skill set will be the willingness to learn. The willingness to learn, the willingness to put the effort in to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I can't say that it's for everybody. That's one other thing that we try to do outreach for children, for high schoolers to know about this job, because I believe everybody's not cut out to go to college. Everybody's not college. Everybody, I made it through 12 years. I'm done. But this is a field that hardly gets any recognition. You hardly ever know about it until something's wrong. If the water don't come out the sink or the toilet don't flush, that's when we get recognition. Outside of that, we don't get recognition.
Yeah.
Just recently, we got deemed as first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody looked at first responders as police and fire,
Yeah.
but public works was a first responder.
Yeah.
Because police and fire could keep you out, but they can't get the water running. They can't get your toilets flushing. So if they keep us out, We can't,
Yeah.
you can't come back without us.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things that I really appreciate that was done, making us first responders, because it's true. You know, Florida, we deal with hurricanes,
Yeah.
and we have to be here. Most of the time when everybody don't evacuate the island, we still here. We're
Wow.
still here manning. We still here making sure that we got, electric. We make sure that the water is still running. Make sure that the pumps are still pumping, so that when you do come back, or if it does hit, hey, you're able to come back, at least
Yeah.
have water and being able to flush the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd you guys fare during, was it Milton?
Milton,
Was it
yes.
that far north for you or no?
It was not that far northward of us, but
Okay.
we still feel some of the effects.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
really a lot of times, no matter what part of Florida that you're in, you still feel some type of effects from the wind or something like that.
Yeah.
And it really, it's really something to behold, to be able to see the wind do what it do.
Yeah.
To see the wind do what it do. So, I mean, um, we haven't had a direct hit,
Okay.
luckily. And so I've been through the hurricane coming above me, below me, under me, but I never had a direct hit, and we grateful for that. We just thankful for that.
Yeah.
We sit in a little area that is kind of funny for a hurricane to hit in that particular area of Florida.
Okay. Okay. All right. It's story time. I need a story from Phillip when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh wow. Um, Nocardia, one of it's a bacteria that is just grease. It's really grease, but having it to foam up into the plant and causing our plant to die off pretty much. And what happens is when you get Nocardia, it feeds off air. And when you have the air turned up so much in the plant, can you imagine coming to a wastewater plant and you look at your tanks and all of them look like somebody poured 55 gallons of Dawn dish detergent into them all, and it's just everywhere.
No way. Wow. And was this like you show up to the office the next day and boom?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You
Okay.
show up to the office and there it is.
Wow.
And so one of the things that was a tough task, because I didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. And so we was doing different things trying to get it fixed. And we ran out of things to do. And at that time, the director called in what we call the Florida Rural Water Association. And a young man by the name of Ron Trigard came in and said, looked up under the microscope, he said, you got Nocardia, meaning that because people was dumping grease. So we had no grease audits. So as a kid, if you ever worked in a restaurant, oftentimes you just dump the grease in the sink and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Even at your house.
Yep.
So we had so much undertaking of grease that we end up having to get a industrial pre-treatment guy. And Ron came in and he helped us and navigated us through those times to get us to a place that we had got rid of the Nocardia. From that point, we was talking one day and he said, you ever thought about being at this time I was a mechanic, you ever thought about being an operator? And from there, man, he introduced me to operations, and he's actually my mentor, man. He's got me into operating. He helped me the B license. We even trained together at the University of Florida Trio Center, where you could come take classes on wastewater, water, asbestos, all kinds of classes that you could take at the University of Trio Center. And he has been with me, helping me for the last at least 20 years, man. So he's been mentoring me and just training me continually.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nocardia it is. And the reason why I asked that question is because there might be somebody else out there in the country who will go through some adversity and they hear your story and they go, oh, well, Phillip's still standing. He made it through it. He figured it out. So it gives him hope.
The other thing, I would like to say, even though for those that might be taking tests, because you do have to usually take a test to get your license, when you take that test, the water test, wastewater test, always continue to strive to go forward to the next license. Never stop and just say, well, I got this license, that's it. No, you always try to strive forward to get more and be better, because you never wait to the door of opportunity to open. You always start moving while that door is closed. So when the door of opportunity opens, you're right there with the right credentials, and you say, here I am. I'm here for my job.
Amen. I like it. I like it. How does Phillip continue to get better and better after 31 years in the industry? You can put your feet on the desk and go, you know what? I've seen it all, been through it all. I know it all. But what's that fire inside you that keeps you educating yourself and keeps you showing up better and better?
Young people, getting young people into this field. Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I think this was the best move that I made throughout my life. Out of the jobs that I've had, this here has been one of the best jobs that I've had. One of my things is I don't work. I hadn't worked in a long time. I really literally haven't worked, because every day when you come to work and you have fun, you can't consider that as work. I'm having a good time doing what I do. I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And to be able to educate people, I like giving back, man, to people that might not know about this field. And one of the things that I do, I attend conferences to get an understanding of which way the direction is flowing of different areas, networking and knowing. In a few weeks, they're having a utility management conference out in Dallas that I'm going to attend to sharpen me so that I can sharpen somebody else. So that's one of my biggest things, man, just giving back and trying to find that person that may be interested and just don't know and looking for something to do.
Yep.
And this is a good field.
No, I feel like you're right. There's a lot of people out there. College isn't the way for them. The services isn't the way for them. They want to have a career, because again, I've had jobs, you've had jobs, and sometimes jobs, they feel like jobs. You're just doing a job and you're like,
exactly,
am I going to do this for the next 30, 40 years?
Exactly.
But like once you find a career, and then a beautiful thing I love about the water industry is the certs. You know, like I got it. Like I went to college. I was blessed to get a football scholarship. You know, that was the only way I was going to be able to make it to college. Got a degree, graduated. But the thing about this industry is a cert is just as good as a degree, meaning you've put your time in, you've learned what you need to learn, and you can start to, progress and make more money as you go out there in your career. So it's like, if you don't want to sit for 4 or 5 years in the classroom in college, get into an industry like this, get your certs and start to move up. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who just don't know about the industry. Like they know about firefighters and policemen, but they don't know about public works and the water sector to be able to get into the career. So yeah. What would you say? You talked about going to conferences, but what do you do that's actionable and tactical to like pick up information? Are you reading industry magazines? You said you go to conferences. Are you doing lunch? Like what's like, how do you continue to keep that information coming in?
Magazines, TPO magazines, Florida Water and Associates magazines, different magazines. You got to really stay abreast of it, to be honest with you, man. It's a constant thing, because again, like I told you before, rules change and rules happen without some people even knowing it. But if you just picked up that magazine or attend a conference, then you could find out. I found out a lot of my information from being in certain conferences, that rules and things was being passed down and they were doing certain things that I knew not of. Now, even though my utility is considered Jacksonville Beach is smaller community, however, this still has an impact on the beaches. So because that, I have to stay, finding out what DEP doing, finding out what's going on. So sometimes, like I said, I have searches that I do, rule making, what's coming up next on DEP, newsletters. The newsletters are some of the most helpful things that I use. A newsletter, because newsletter come out once a month or whatever, and it lets me know, hey,
boom, 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 boom. Yep.
Exactly. Newsletters, I would think that the newsletters would be the best thing that I could say that helps out.
Okay.
And like I said, networking.
Yeah.
Networking is important because you find out a lot of stuff that I found out. I just walked up on a conversation. I just stumbled into a conversation at the right place at the right time. And I say,
Yeah.
so then I start asking questions. But again, what I would say, one of my biggest sources of information is that summer school that we have down in Florida, because you got most of the lawmakers, the Department of Environmental Protection, and you have them all in one place. So if you want to find out what's going on, you can find out what's going on. Also, every year in February, DEP does a focus on change. So they go around the state of Florida and meeting in different spots. It's free. It's free. You just come and learn. And right there starts you off the year with everything that you're going to find out of what's going on.
I like
So
it.
if you miss focus on change,
Yeah.
it's no telling what you'll missed out on. And hopefully you got somebody there at Focus on Change that can remember and tell you, because they have a general session, then they have a breakout session for the water and wastewater. And in these sessions, they're talking about things that's transpiring in Tallahassee and what's to come, what's might not to come, what we need to look for. So I think, you know, the beginning of every year for the last 20 years, February, I know that I'm going to focus on change.
I think every state should do that. I'm a part of Arizona Rural Water, and one of their biggest gripes is that they'll go to a small utility on the east-west side of Arizona. You know, they might have a couple thousand connections. They don't know what's happening in the state capitol. Like they don't know what legislature has been passed on lead copper rule or PFAS. They just don't know. So a lot of the focus is just trying to get the word out. So I mean, you'd be surprised. Some of these small system operators, they don't look at emails. They're not looking for newsletters. They don't get magazines. They're just they're always behind because they're understaffed. And I get it because they're underfunded and they're always out doing work. They don't really have time to go, okay, what's next? What are the changes that are coming down? So I think that's pretty cool, that concept. You talked about Jacksonville Beach. Like, what would you say is the difference for being on the beach just to being in a normal city that's landlocked? Like, is it something that is more stressful, less stressful? Like, is there times you're like, man, I wish I was just some 30,000 person city in the middle of somewhere versus a beach?
Well, I'm gonna say this is one of our main slogans is beach life, and it's somewhat. I'm going to say the beach in the city itself is laid back. However, being at the beach kind of gives you that Hakuna Matata feeling, but because of the management that we have, the city manager, the mayor, they have made it so enjoyable. I don't find too many people that's able to talk about their city manager or mayor to say that they working with them. They understand. My city manager, he's a PE, and he understands water, wastewater. So for me,
perfect.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
But not only that, he has brought a different focus to the organization. Where we didn't have core values, now we have core values. Where we didn't really know what our agenda or what our strategic plan was, now we know. These are the things that the right leadership helps do. He puts you in a path that you could go and you could walk down and you could say, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And before, a lot of times people didn't know what they was doing. We were just told to do it. Yeah. And you did it. When I first got here, you was told to do it. You just did it. Didn't know why, but you did.
Yeah.
So I think that management has made a great impact on being here. I had the opportunity to jump over and go to JEA, make a lot more money, and be over there. But I enjoyed the beach life, and it was stable. It was just something about being at the beach. If I wanted to go to lunch and sit on the beach, I could go to lunch and sit on the beach.
Yeah, can't beat that.
So for me, that was a serenity sometimes. So you don't have a hard time. Just go to just sit there on the beach for an hour, come back, your mind refreshed. Okay, I'm ready to go back at it.
Okay. Okay. Good stuff. What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions about your position? Let's say somebody asks you, so Philip, what do you do? You know, that same old question that we all get. What do you do? And you tell them what you do. What do you think they think when you answer that question?
They think that I sit in the office all day long, never go out in the field, and never get dirty
Really?
as superintendent.
Okay.
As operator, they hear operator and they like operate on what? Then you tell them wastewater. And you're like, ugh. That's always that's always what I get.
Yeah.
Ugh. It's not what you think.
Yeah.
It's truly not what you think. And so they think that I'm out there shoveling some poop or something or playing or getting wet all the time. And I said, no, that's the biggest misconception right there.
Oh.
You know, we people say, well, oh, it stinks. I say, well, smell like money to me. It always smells like money. I say, this stink that's been paying my bills for a long time.
100%. You've been at this for 31 years again. You know, most people who've been at it for that amount of time, they're looking at retirement. In the next 3 to 5 years, they're probably going to retire. And I've seen this all across the nation, the silver tsunami, guys who've been at it for so many years, they're leaving the industry. What have you seen or experienced that's been, I guess, efficient at getting new talent in and then keeping them, you know, and also training them up to make sure they know what a person like Philip knows who's been at it for 31 years?
Man, that's the $1 billion question for real, because that's the way I'm at now, trying to get young people to understand and get into this field and educate them. I tell everybody my job was COVID proof. Being an operator was COVID proof, 100% COVID proof. Couldn't do nothing without it.
Yeah, essential worker. Yeah.
Essential worker. So trying to get people to understand what you do and how you do it, I feel like for me, sometimes you just have to come see it to believe it. And getting that's one of the biggest things of a misconception, man, right now, that there's plenty of operators around. On the average, right now in the state of Florida, most of the operators are retiring.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get more people. We're going to the naval bases. We go into schools because I work with the outreach as far as human resources when we go to job fairs, and just to get people to understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think the next thing that is hard sometimes is getting them to understand what you're doing. Coming into this field as a trainee may not be making what you want to make, but make the money and get the qualifications to make more money.
Yep.
You know, I think right now everybody is wanting that big money right up front.
Yeah, give me 6 figures. Yeah,
figures, exactly. But it's come a time, man, where you just have to, sometimes you have to pace yourself to that. That's what I did. The same people that left Jacksonville Beach and jumped over to JEA for the bigger money, they retired. However, they didn't realize, or they may have realized, that a lot of times you get more money comes a lot other stuff with that money.
Yep.
Okay?
A lot more stress, a lot more BS. Yeah.
Talk about the midnight shift, 12 on, 12 off, the 11 to 11 to 7 shift. We talk about a whole
call.
Your weekends gone. So you have to consider that and take all that in advance, in thought pattern, to say, do I really want to do this? Is this money going to be worth it? Is it really worth it? Or is spending time with my family, being able to be with my family, is that more important? Because the realization of this is 48 hours after I pass away, or whatever, that job opening is on the street.
Yep.
It's on the street.
Yep.
Now, my family, who's missing me, and probably been missing me because I've been working 12-hour shifts for 3 days. I've been working 10-hour shifts. Now they having to deal with the missing me for real because I'm gone.
Yeah.
So when it came
for
down
real.
to Jacksonville Beach, I looked at the fact that, you know what, they do promote work-life balance. Work-life balance is important
Yeah.
because family is important.
Yeah. What
And
would you,
that's the thing.
what would you say is a way that Philip mindfully gets away from it all? How do you kind of, see, you said you might go to the beach and do lunch there to kind of clear the static in your brain. But what are some of the things you do outside of work, some hobbies and things that help you get away from the job?
Jump on a boat and go for a cruise.
Okay.
That's the beauty about living in Florida. I go right down. I just go to the other side of town. I can get on a boat and I'm gone.
Where we
I
going
go
next, man?
an
I've been
hour
in the
away to
Caribbean,
get
all
on a
that.
boat and I'm gone. I enjoy travel. I do enjoy seeing different places, different cultures, tasting different food, those type things. I enjoy that. I enjoy that. When I just want to shut it down, sometimes I just go down to Orlando and shut it down. That's a weekend trip, man. I could just go shut down and unplug from everything.
Yeah.
And so when like I said, when I really want to unplug and really want to unwind, either take me a trip or go fly down to the Bahamas or the Jamaica
baby.
and
Yeah.
just have a one-star moment.
I love it. I love it. All right. Let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Jacksonville Beach. What ask of your community in regards to water, wastewater, stormwater would you put on this billboard?
Don't flush the flushable rags. Can the grease to protect our environment, to protect our pumps too. But the biggest thing that I will put on there, don't flush this rags.
Yep.
Don't flush them.
Even though it says flushable, don't flush them.
Even though it says flushable, they are not flushable. Please, can your grease, put the grease in a can, put it in the refrigerator, then toss it in the garbage can.
Yeah.
Don't pour it down the sink.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest problems that we have is rags. It's the biggest problem.
Yep. No. All right. I feel like you echoed it. For a lot of people around the nation, feel the same way for sure. I've definitely seen those rags seize up a pump, and it ain't pretty.
Yes,
it's not pretty.
We have pumps that we have to pull regularly, just to keep them from going. And we have did some investigation work, TV lines to say, hey, these rags are coming from this facility. No, they're not. Yes, they are. Look at the video. This is your facility. These are rags.
Wow.
This is your line coming out of your facility. And so it's sad that we got to go that way. But however, you got to prove your point. You wasting and creating man hours and pulling pumps and stuff like that. And even with you get a pump with a impeller, a chopper impeller on it, it chops up the rags. They still, when that grease hit them, they come right back together. And a lot of misnomers on Dawn. Everybody think that Dawn removes the grease, and it does from your city.
It just shuffles it down.
There you go.
It'll remove it from that pot.
It moves it from you. But along the way, it comes back.
I know. It's funny because the heat, it makes the grease move, but the water under the ground isn't hot. That water is cold. As soon as that grease hits that coal, it locks right back up.
So that would be a billboard that I would have to put up.
Okay. Good stuff. All right. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors along your journey. And then also I want you to give a word of inspiration and motivation to your fellow wastewater, water, stormwater superintendents across the nation.
Well, I would like to thank Ron Triar for the years that he's, tutored me and kept me motivated and kept pushing me and getting me to come to class and teach and help him in class. That's one of the guys. He's been there for me for quite some time, man. And even when I failed the test, he kept pushing me. Well, what is it? And he would work with me to make sure that I understood whatever it was. He would make sure that I understood. Then as far as when it come down to now and where I'm at now, I would have to say my director that's over me right now, Dennis Barron, Mike Stanopoulos, who's the city manager. These guys are great. They're great. They actually hear you, listen to you, and understand what you're going through. So
Sure.
you cannot beat a good leader. Now you can have a boss, but do you have a leader? There's
That's a
two
good
different
point.
things.
Yeah.
And so I got a great mentor and two great leaders that have helped sharpen me in this management field. I learned management. I would like to say the whole old school or hard way. I seen a manager that I'm like, okay, I seen what they did, and I looked at how their people reacted. And I said, well, that's a lesson one. Don't do that one. So
We
I
can learn
learned,
from seeing it the
I
wrong
learned a
way. Yeah.
lot. I learned a lot what not to do. And for right now, with the superintendents, wherever they may be, operators, wherever they may be, stay focused on the task. I know sometimes in municipalities it get hard with budgets and being able to find the money to do certain projects, but we have to stay focused on the task and know that the main reason for the task and the main idea is the task is protect the environment and for our children and our grandchildren and our
Yeah.
children's children. So that's one of our main focus. Stay focused to the task. Don't give up.
Mm.
Don't give up. Sometimes you have to look outside the box to find those ways to get projects funded. Sometimes you have to look in other areas. Sometimes you have to look at other grants to get those projects funded. However, it's possible. Keep
Yeah.
working at it. It's possible.
Yeah.
Listen to the people. Listen to the people. You may know something, you may do things, or been doing things for a long time, but sometimes people see it from a whole different idea and a whole different perspective
Yeah.
than you. And it allows you to say, that's a good idea. That's one of the things I think I learned over the last 6 years, just to listen to people and see.
Yeah.
Sometimes I learned a lot more from my mistakes than my successes.
Mm.
And so sometimes I have to step back, and maybe the superintendent may have to just step back for a moment and just listen to the younger people.
Yeah.
Because, I have some guys that are older that don't like messing with computers. The wastewater industry is moving fast to computers,
Yeah.
very fast. The computer logic, PLCs, all this kind of stuff. It's not what it was 15 years ago. God knows it's not.
Yeah.
So those things that you may not like doing, those things that you may feel that you don't want to do, you don't want to do, or you don't want to change, as a leader, surround yourself with good people that may be able to lift your arms where that you may be slack. They may be able to come along beside you and
Yeah.
show you and help you, and maybe even take that task for you and run with it. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to let go and let somebody do a task that you might not like computers. You might not like dealing with it, but you might have a guy that might not like being out in the field that say, hey, I'll do this. And what happened? That's kind of what happened to me. My maintenance supervisor, he didn't like computers. He barely knew how to turn on a computer. And one day I was in there and he was trying to figure out, and I did it for him. He said, you know how to do this? I said, yeah, I know how to do it. And from that point on, what's heaven? I was doing his work. He was doing mine. I was in his office. He was in the field. So it was a win-win situation.
Yeah.
I didn't try to dog him, or I ain't trying to belittle him or nothing like
you left
that.
your ego out of it. Yeah.
I found my purpose. I found what I like.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
Okay.
That's it.
Finding
purpose.
I like it. All right. Let's say I'm coming to town and I text you ahead of time. I say, Phillip, where can I go to get the best burger in Jacksonville Beach? Where are you going to send me?
Relish.
What?
Place called Relish.
Relish. Okay.
Relish.
Yep. Relish.
All
right. Anything with relish on it, I might have to give it a shot. Burgers and relish. I'm used to hot dogs and relish, but burgers and relish.
Now that's just the name of the place, but you can have a whole lot of things on there.
Okay.
You can have whatever you want on there.
Okay.
That's just the name of it.
They
do have some with relish, but that's a good hamburger down in Jackson Beach. Yeah.
Good stuff. Phillip, thank you for hopping on the podcast today.
Man.
Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Phillip, any final words before we get out of here?
Man, help us save the environment. Keep helping us save the environment, man. I mean, because You know, I got grandkids that's dependent on water to go to the beach. I got grandkids that want to walk in the woods and play around in the woods. So helping people get to the beach, always keep moving forward. Don't keep looking back. Stay positive. Stay positive.
Yeah.
That's
Good
it.
stuff. All right, Phillip, thank you for hopping on the Public Works podcast, and thank you everybody for tuning in.